back with another episode of your series, Malarkey and Miracles. I put it out there asking people what they want to hear from you because you sent me a list of things that you want to talk about. And I just told you I was almost overwhelmed looking at it because growing up, I was sort of exposed to some of your stories. And as an adult, I understand some of the context of them, just being sent to war and going through, service in the government where sometimes you just have to deal with things, or sometimes you have to deal with politics and whatnot.
Malarkey.
Right? And then you also experience some miracles.
Right.
But your Aunt Marissa said that she wants to hear about your resolve and how you self-persevered through it all. Right? And so we talked a little bit before about how you were a high school dropout working a dead-end job, and then you found success. And that started with basic training, which you said is the easiest job ever. Which I feel to some people, maybe if they're looking at getting into it, or there might be a misconception for people that haven't ever looked into it, of, it's just grueling and terrible the whole time.
So my jobs up to basic training were, so my first job was, working as a paper boy, where you're riding a bicycle. You've got, I don't even know how many pounds, but your bags of paper is way more than you do at that age. So, that's kind of grueling. And then you're out in all kinds of weather doing that. Freezing cold weather, burning hot weather. So, it could be super hot. You get home from school, you're tired. You got to fold papers up, load them on the bike, and then you got to go, really busting your butt to deliver the papers in the hot burning sun. So I was used to, hard work. And, then I had jobs where I had to work, like graveyard shift. And I know you do it all the time and you make it look not so bad, but I can't do it. Like I did it for 5 years. Never got used to it. I hated trying to sleep during the day. Couldn't do it. So when I got to basic training, I loved it because I had a set schedule, right? I didn't have to think at all because you're told exactly what to do every second of every day. So your brain gets a break. You're not trying to figure out, a bunch of complicated stuff. There is a lot of memorization, but you do everything over and over and over until you get it, 100% perfect, and you can do it in your sleep. So it's not difficult, like mentally it's not that difficult. And then because I could sleep, I would get 8 hours of sleep a night. On the nights that I had fire guard or something like that, maybe it'd be, 6 hours or something. But it was like 6 hours of quality sleep at night. And because everybody's working out so hard during the day, like when you lay down, everybody's out. So you get like solid sleep until somebody wakes you up and go, hey, it's your time for, fire guard shift. And then you get up, you do that for like an hour. But again, then you go lay down, you're right back to sleep because you're so exhausted. And so I was getting like a good, at least 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours of sleep at night. And, so the drill sergeant would wake us up in the morning, typically like throwing a trash can down, down the bay. Clang, clang, clang. It was never a nice way to wake up, right? And so everybody would wake up and, all the younger guys, like, 18, 19 years old, never had a job before kind of guys, they would be miserable and tired. But I would wake up with a smile on my face, stretching, just like, what a wonderful night of sleep. So I really enjoyed it. Other than it was the first time that I've been away from, you and your brother and your mom for such a long time. Uh, when I joined the army, it was, oh yeah, basic training is 8 weeks. And I was like, man, that's a long time. Maybe this is a long time. And then it was like, well, you also have a week of in processing, so it's like 9 weeks. And I was like, okay. And then when I got to basic training, like all the classes were full, and so we had to wait at like the reception battalion for an actual class to start that had enough space for us to go into. And so it seemed like I was at basic training for, man, closer to 10 weeks.
Mm.
And so that was tough. But as far as like the perseverance of it, 'cause there were definite grueling times in there, like where you are doing a long ruck march with no sleep, heavy gear. Maybe because like at the end you do like a few days of like a field problem, right? And bivouac, which is what the Army calls camping, and they take all the fun out of camping. Okay, so so you're
Not
out
exactly
pretty
roasting
much.
marshmallows, huh?
No. There's no roasting of marshmallows. There is just constant getting messed with and playing war games. And so you do that for, I think the final one wasn't that long. It was like 3 nights or something. But you're not getting much sleep.
Mm.
And then the last thing was you had to ruck march back with all of your gear. And actually, I don't think we were in full body armor when we rucked back. I think we were able to like leave our vest. It was just the Kevlar, the weapon, and then our gear. So it was probably like 60 pounds of gear or something like that at that point. But carrying 60 pounds for, I actually think it was like 12 miles after 3 days of getting very little sleep. I mean, I was so exhausted. And, it's the end of base training, so you've been working your muscles every day. They really haven't been getting much time to recover. So, your whole body just feels completely worn out. And so every step on that ruck march is just willpower. And as silly as it is, the thing that was kind of going through my head, it's so stupid, was there's an old show, is it Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? It's like claymation or something, and it's super, super old. And there's a song in there that says, "You just put one foot in front of the other." Remember that stupid song?
Yeah.
I swear to you.
Doesn't Santa Claus sing it? Maybe?
I think so. But I swear to you that basic training, like graduation, like the crucible, like that end point, that last ruck march, that was a song that kept going through my head.
Just gotta keep going.
Just put one foot in front of the other. It really is. It's all willpower. You have no strength left at that point, and it's just grueling for everybody. And some people say, they'll go through something really, really hard, or they will push themselves to do something like a major transformation, and you ask them like, well, how'd you do it? And they say, you know what, I just had to do it for myself. And that has never motivated me. I've never been motivated to do something for myself.
Right.
It was because I knew that I had a family counting on me to be successful. I had nothing really to go back to. There were only dead-end jobs available if you were lucky to find a job at that time. interestingly, isn't very much different from the economy these days.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was very difficult to find any work, and if you did find work, it wasn't gonna pay you enough to even make your monthly bills. Um, and so it was pretty much there was no way I was gonna fail. Like failure just wasn't an option. And no matter how bad I hurt, no matter what I was going through, mentally, physically, whatever, I was just not gonna let my family down.
Yeah.
That was my driving force. That's been my driving force. Uh, and then at war, the perseverance is kind of the same, except you're there. Like it's the soldiers to your left and your right as well. Like you're not gonna abandon them because you all kind of come from the same background. No one joins the army because they've got just tons of opportunity, right? And so we've all come from a place where it was like, okay, like we all came into the army to better ourselves. And so that alone just kind of gives you camaraderie. Like just knowing, okay, like we all realized that where we came from was not good and that we all had to do something very, very hard to get out of it. And so that kind of gives you camaraderie. And then you end up in war together and you've had a lot of shared experiences at that point. And so you're kind of bonded. Um, and so you do your very best for them too. And I think that's what it really comes down to is like, I'm not ever going to be pushed to be my best for myself. It's that I feel like, and I think we all feel this way too. People may have not been introspective and really thought about it, but I think most of us feel this way. That if we are not the best version of ourselves, we are cheating our teams, we are cheating our families from the person that they deserve to have in their lives. Right? And so none of us are perfect, but I strive to be the best dad I can be, the best grandpa I can be, the best husband I can be. Not perfect at any of them, right? Um, but that's where my perseverance comes from, is just wanting to be the best version of myself because that's who my family deserves.
That's good.
Kind of long-winded.
Yeah. No, I was just sitting here letting you talk. A couple of the questions did come up that I want to sort of dive into. Because for me, I tell people that ask me going to academy for just local law enforcement on this to be mandated by the state on that level, be involved in law enforcement. I'm just like, hey guys, day one, hazing isn't legal anymore, but they really try to just test you and see if you want to be there. Like you said, it's that mental thing. And I remember one of our instructors walking back and forth while we're all doing push-ups and whatever, saying, some of you are realizing you don't want to be here. And in my mind, like, I think I even put my head down because I wanted to laugh at him a little bit. Like, no, this is where I want to be. A lot for those same reasons. I had that self-motivation drive saying, I want to do this. I want to hold myself to a standard and be better. And I remember feeling pride the second day when we came back. Everybody came back. Like, nobody said, oh, that sucks. Right? And I've heard stories from them that people just couldn't make it past that first day for their own reasons. But then we got into defensive tactics, rolling around, and somebody stubbed their toe and then left. And apparently they were sent to another academy that wasn't so physical. But I remember we all were joking about the guy for the rest of the session. Like, oh, that guy had what we call little heart syndrome. And then there were a couple of people that genuinely tried and just couldn't make it for whatever reason. And then you just saw people start wearing down. So did you see anybody that suffered from that of just could not mentally have it and had to be like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I can't be.
So the first time that we went for a run with the drill sergeant, like what we would consider as civilians to be a long run. It was probably 3 miles, is probably all it was. But after about a mile and a half, um, I was hurting. A lot of people were hurting, but like you, we knew we wanted to be there and we weren't going to give up. And this one guy actually asked the drill sergeant. He's like, I don't think I can run any anymore. I want to, and I'm trying hard, but like, I just can't. I don't know why he would even talk to a drill sergeant that way, but that's kind of how he was talking to the drill sergeant. And the drill sergeant goes, "Oh, it sounds like you're having a heart problem." He said, "Really?" The drill sergeant said, "Yeah, as in the lack of." But yeah, there were people. Drill sergeant told us on the first day of basic training. He said, "Look around, look to your left and right." He said, "1/3 of you aren't going to make it to graduation. So look to your left and your right. It's either them or it's you. But one of you, out of the three there, as you look to your left and right, is not going to be here at graduation." And I was sure it wasn't going to be me, unless I got, injured. It was absolutely
Right.
out of my control. Like if I broke my back or something, right? Other than that, like I knew it wasn't going to be me.
So did that hold true about him?
Yeah, so I thought that he was bluffing or lying or exaggerating. But no, he was not. Like 1/3 of the people didn't make it. And most of them didn't make it because they just did not have that drive. They didn't have the perseverance. I don't think they had a good enough reason to be there. Right? Like you have to know, whenever you undertake anything, you have to know, like, why am I doing this? And really think about it before you start something. Like, why am I doing this? And when the excitement wears off, and when the motivation wears off, because motivation typically wears off when you get tired, what's going to keep me going? And if you don't know the answer to that, probably a good chance you're not going to make it.
Right. So going through all that, and I don't mean to just keep rehashing this, but I do want other people that might be in a similar position to know, right? You were a high school dropout.
Yes.
Right? And so there may be other people in a position where either they're looking at that or they've already made that decision for themselves. But coming from that, you were able to make it through such a process. So what did it feel like on that day graduating? This is back 2000?
Yeah. That was 1999.
99? Okay. So you made it through all that, all the challenges that they throw at you, all the harassment, and back then the proverbial shark attacks were still a thing.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
It was a different time, so to speak. So what did that feel like, making it to graduation, knowing that you were part of the 2/3, I guess, that made it after 1/3 filled out for whatever reason, and you were still standing, and you set that goal and accomplished it?
I definitely felt proud of myself. It felt much like the pride that I had in myself when I had passed my black belt test in Taekwondo. So I didn't have a lot of successes growing up as a kid. I was like all the sports teams I played on, like we weren't really winning teams. We came from a small town. All the other towns had like greater pools of kids, and so I was used to like losing, right?
Participating.
Right. And when I started doing Taekwondo, and I got that first belt, back when I was a young kid, like that gave me kind of a sense of pride. And then when I got the next belt, I was like, okay, like I got it down now. Like I know, hard work, focus, memorizing things, like
Pays off.
yeah. And so I spent a lot of time doing martial arts and it was because I got addicted to that success,
Mm.
and that's a good thing, I think, right?
Yeah.
So there was always another belt to get,
Mm.
and so when I got my black belt, that was the first time that I felt, wow, like I can do things that other people maybe can't do, like they don't have the dedication to.
Yeah.
Because same thing, like the people that I started training with as white belt, um, I don't think any of them were with me when I tested for black belt.
Hmm. Well, I've seen that, growing up and even in adulthood now. If there's a bad thing to be addicted to, out of all the addictions out there, I guess success is a positive one, right? But sometimes it's almost like you can't stop yourself. I remember for a long time you debated going back to school for your master's, and you ended up doing it, and you got it. But for a while, you're just, I'm not gonna say regret, but you're like, man, why can I not just
Stop. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's the thing is, you do. It does feel good when you achieve something, and that's why I think it's so powerful. If you have like, hey, this is where I want to be in, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, or whatever, and then you set up those kind of micro goals, right, or short term goals. Because every time you hit one of those short term goals, it feels good.
yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. Back to the graduation day, I felt good.
Felt like
Felt proud of myself. Felt like, hey, I am going to be, I am going to be successful. I can do hard things. I can.
So, did you understand at that time that was just the beginning, or did you feel like king of the mountain already, or where were you at with that?
Um, I did not think that I would ever be a sergeant because my drill sergeants were so impressive to me
Mm.
that I just thought, man, like they were like my heroes at that point, right? Like those to me were real professionals. Um, they were almost, like gods to me.
Right.
Like they had so much knowledge, and like for me to get to that level, I didn't think it was possible.
Mm.
But I did want to do, the best that I could do. And so I figured, well, I could probably make a few more promotions, right?
So you knew you had your foundation under you
Right.
to build on.
Yeah. But I didn't think I'd ever make it to being an NCO. And so just continuing to, be all I could be, right? Which was the Army's motto at that time. Uh, every promotion felt good. Every promotion felt like success. Every promotion gave me that boost of endorphins, and um, and then when I finally did make it to being an NCO, I realized that NCOs are not gods. They don't know everything. Half of them are knuckleheads,
Yeah.
right?
All of the stories I hear about drill instructors, they're so unintentionally funny. But do you remember any specific piece of advice, words of wisdom, or just profound statements that have stuck with you? That any specific ones send to you?
Yeah, so Drill Sergeant Kynard gave me a lot of, well, not me, the whole platoon. He gave us a lot of advice. He said, y'all know what be all you can be means. He said it means you just keep going. He says, like with promotions. If you're up for promotion, put in for the promotion. Make them tell you no. Don't ever, you know, wait to put in for promotion because you don't think you're good enough.
Mm.
He said, because we are our harshest critics. And that stuck with me. And it just made so much sense. Like, Yeah, like what does it hurt to put in for a promotion that you're not good enough for? What does it hurt
Yeah.
to apply for a job that you're not good enough for? What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no.
Yeah.
You didn't think you were good enough anyway. That's okay. But put in for it. Let them tell you no.
Might open opportunity.
Exactly. And if you apply for 1,000 jobs that you don't think you're good enough for, shoot, you just might get one. And then you might find that you're kind of okay at it. At least okay enough to where they don't fire you right away, and then maybe you'll get a little bit of experience, and then you might have a whole profession that is way more lucrative than anything you ever thought that you could get.
Might be able to bide your time long enough to put a bullet point on your resume, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be worse for it. And that goes line right. There was a pastor who also, gave me some words that really helped me out along the way. And it has been true in every new job that I've ever had. And, even being in the Army for, quarter century or so, every few years you have a new job in the Army. And you always have a little bit more responsibility at every new job as you grow in rank and time in service. And it's scary sometimes. But what he said was, if you never feel like you are in over your head, you are not walking by faith. You're walking by sight. Right? And we're supposed to walk by faith, not by sight. Right? And so
people get complacent.
I think that, yes, it's complacency, and it's really misplaced humility, because you go, you know what, I'm not good enough for that. And so you discount yourself, you discredit yourself, and you go, I can't do this job. I've seen what it is. I can't even remember the procedures. Like, this is way above me. It's way too advanced. I feel like I'm drowning here.
Right.
This is very uncomfortable. I want out.
So they want to stay.
So I think people quit sometimes. Right? They resign their position because they feel like, I'm in over my head. Well, no, you're supposed to be in over your head. And I found that it's at least 90 to 100 days of any new job before I feel like I can do this.
It's almost a month and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, first 100 days on the job, I feel like I'm stupid. I can't do this. I'm a failure. They should have never hired me for this.
All right, so we ran into some technical difficulties. But you were talking about how for 90 to 100 days in a new job, you feel out of your league.
Yeah, definitely. In over your head. And if it weren't for the advice of, that really good pastor, Pastor Chris Valentin, and if it weren't for the advice of Drill Sergeant Kynard, my success would have really been limited by myself, because I would not have applied for positions that I didn't think I was good enough for, and I would not have stayed in positions where I felt like I was not doing well. Right? Because it's really uncomfortable to be in a new position and feel like you're in over your head. And it would be very easy to say, this is uncomfortable. I'm not good at this. I'm not ready for this.
So that whole time you're just beating yourself up for that month and a half or so.
Right. But because, Chris Valentin said the words, and they just rang true to me, that it's okay to be in over your head, because you're walking by faith, not by sight. And if you're never feeling over your head, then you're clearly just walking by sight. And also, if you're never in over your head, you're never growing. You're never challenging yourself. Right? And so to grow, you have to feel that way. And that kind of just made me feel like, hey, yeah, I'm struggling. This is really hard. It's harder than maybe what I thought it was going to be. But it's okay, because I'm growing and I've got to give myself the grace to grow. And that helped me become successful because I didn't give up on things too soon. I didn't just, say, all right, I'm going to resign this position because it's harder than what I thought. And then after 100 days, I found after going different jobs I've done, I found that after about 100 days of any new job, no matter how overwhelming it was at first, I'd get my processes down. I would find things that could be maybe streamlined or changed to make easier, and I would get my feet under me.
By that point, you would have foundational context. So if you had something to deal with, you would.
Yeah, but it would take about 100 days. The first 100 days, I think, of any new job is gonna feel like you're getting beat up, and it's an uncomfortable situation. But growing is uncomfortable, and I don't know that I would have ever been able to stick to those uncomfortable positions without that advice. Nor would I have applied for those positions without the advice of Drill Sergeant Kiner, just telling us, hey, you're your harshest critic. If you're ever up for promotion, put in for it. Don't say no. I'm gonna wait until I'm better. Like, as soon as you hit those minimum qualifications, start putting in for it.
Make them tell you no.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went through basic. You started your career, and we talked a little bit about your stories. And like I said, you graduated basic in 2000, and then with September coming up, our next episode we'll probably talk about 9/11. And you first went to Afghanistan. You were part of the initial invasion in 2003. Got a little bit, and then you got out. You worked as a contractor for years. Saw the writing on the wall. Got back in the military and had to go through basic a second time in 2013.
2011. Yeah.
2011. Okay. And you even mentioned before, and I wanted to bring this up because you said nothing was going to stop you unless you got injured. Right before you went in for the second time, we were doing taekwondo in the front yard. You went for a side kick and just a move you've done a million times before, and it just happened that time. You slid the wrong way and pretty much snapped your freaking ankle.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
But instead of doing anything, you were shifting to basic. Like, I think the next week or even within the next couple of days. I remember it was a very short time frame.
I think it was 3 weeks.
Okay, 3 weeks.
And I had an 8-week injury easily. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you've had issues with that ankle before too, and you've been on crutches in the past and whatnot, or was it the other ankle? Do you remember?
So I've had issues with both ankles. That was my good ankle prior to that day.
Right. But
to this day, it is my worst ankle.
Yeah. But we just talked about how grueling basic is, and you just snapped your ankle and you freaking duct taped it and went through it again.
Yes. Yeah. And this time, again, failure's not an option. I just quit my job. Had like my going away party the night before or something. So for the first time since, even before I was a teenager, I did not have a job. And I was just waiting to shift to basic training. And then either broke or at least severely sprained my ankle. Lots of bruising, lots of swelling, lots of pain. But I had to go to basic. Like, I couldn't not go. That wasn't an option.
And we talked before, like, you had all the right motivations, just carry on, making things happen.
Yeah. Sometimes there are points in life where failure is just not an option. And you really got to press through. And it's not all the time, but there are definite points in life where it's like, okay, I can't fail right now.
Right.
And that was one of those times.
And you were in a unique position going through a second time. You know, we talked a little bit. You said the Army's stupid. You found success. Your first taste of success toward graduating basic that first time, but the second time was more like just checking a box to you, but you still had to go through that process. But you were also afforded certain privileges because you've been through it before.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So, the Army's human resources is awful. The way they manage people is awful. In fact, the way governments manage everything is awful. The less that the government handles, the better. And anybody who's worked for the government will attest to that. So you look at me, I had 5 years of experience as a trained counterintelligence agent. The Army had already spent like $100,000 training me to become a counterintelligence agent, which is like $300,000 in today's money. It's a lot of money. I had combat experience as a counterintelligence agent, collecting on the battlefield under, the most hostile environment situations that you can imagine, and I was successful. So it seems obvious that after working as a civilian, continuing to train counterintelligence people, teaching them how to use their systems, that when I came back in the military, it should have been obvious to anyone, hey, this guy needs to go back to counterintelligence. We've already trained him for it. We've already spent all the money on it. He's been successful at it. But the Army, in its infinite wisdom, said, no, we don't take people off the street and put them right into counterintelligence anymore. You have to be trained in another MOS. And then you can apply to go back to counterintelligence. So I had to be trained as a multi-channel transmission specialist and maintainer.
Right. Whole new job. You had no idea.
That's right.
So that goes back to the 90 to 100 day.
Yeah, so the Army paid me a whole lot of money, or paid a whole lot of money for me to go and learn this new job. With all the other privates, I was a sergeant, a bunch of other privates, and so I got the same level of training as privates did. And then they sent me to Korea as a sergeant in that MOS, where I was the leader. I was supposed to train other people how to do this job. But I didn't have any more training than privates did at that point.
You were sort of figuring it out together.
Yeah. So, it didn't make a whole lot of sense, and I applied to go back to counterintelligence. And when I was called into for the interview, they asked me, "Well, how'd you learn about counterintelligence?" And I said, "Well, I was a counterintelligence agent for 5 years in the Army." And they were very confused. And I gave them my non-commissioned officer evaluation reports from when I was a counterintelligence agent, showing that I was like the top collector in Iraq during the initial invasion. And they're like, "This makes no sense. Like, why?
Yeah. Why do we not have you already?
Yeah,
we need you.
Why are you
over
here doing this, radio signal stuff?" Anyway, so
like, you've been here the whole time.
Right. So, that's how I got back in.
Right.
But I did have to go back through basic training and everything. Yeah.
So you got back in with the goal to secure retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get back in with the goal to become a chief warrant officer?
Yes.
What was that journey like?
So yeah, when I decided, you know what, I need to go back in, I had talked with one of my mentors. Her name was Chief Gibson. When we were in Iraq together, she was my warrant officer. Even as a civilian, I would continue calling her. She was a great mentor. We're the same age, but she was definitely still like a mentor and someone that I looked up to. Very, very intelligent, good person, and had a lot of experiences that I did not have. And so I talked to her about coming back in, and hey, with my previous experience, like, would that count towards being a warrant officer? She was like, absolutely, you should come back in. And so I took her advice, and I went back in. And I thought it'd be easy. Thought I'd go to the military entrance processing station and say, hey, look, was a counterintelligence agent for 5 years. I figured they would put me right back into counterintelligence, and then as soon as I got there, I could submit for warrant officer based on the 5 years experience that I had, plus the experience that I had as a trainer. And then I figured they would, be stupid to not select me and make me a warrant officer right away. I figured it'd be a year or two. So that was not the case. They decided that I had to go back to basic training, that I had to go back through AIT to learn a whole other MOS, and then I had to reapply, and then I had to wait until I had finished a year in that before I could even go back to counterintelligence, and then I had to wait until I had, I guess, won favor over at least my warrant officer, my company commander, and my battalion commander. Um, and we talked about that before. I don't know how much we want to get into that, but it's very difficult to get all three of those people on the same page and agree to give you a letter of recommendation. And so it's like the stars really have to align for all three of those people in your chain of command to all know you, have enough time to evaluate you, and for all of them to agree that you should be a warrant officer. It's not an easy thing to do, just because of timing and how long people are, or how often people are moved around in positions.
And you face some adversity in that because, to my understanding, some people wanted to recommend you just for the work you did. Some people didn't want to recommend you because they didn't want to lose you, and some people just didn't know you or had misunderstandings of the work that you've done and didn't think you earned it yet.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that when someone says, I don't really think you deserve this?
So I think this happens to a lot of people who are deserving of promotions and who get looked over. Is you can't take no for an answer. If someone says, "Hey, we're going another way," your resume was good, you're missing a couple things. Hey, we just feel like this person was better suited for the role than you. Whatever their reasoning is, you don't just go, "Oh, okay," and then walk away, and then just be at a loss, because it's gonna feel like a gut punch, right, when you don't get promoted. I think a lot of people probably quit their jobs, leave jobs prematurely because they don't get promoted. So I would say that if you don't get promoted, and like I didn't, I'd asked for recommendations, and I had one warrant officer who didn't recommend me, and I told you before, I thought he was joking because, like, I did everything at the platoon. I ran the platoon, and I did good at everything. My PT, my physical training tests were highest in the platoon, at least a 9 in each event. I had maxed PT tests. So as far as like physical conditioning goes, as far as combat experience goes, I also had more training, more college than my peers. So no matter which statistic you looked at, I was like head and shoulders above everybody else. Other than awards, I didn't have as many awards as other people. Some people had more. And anyway, he told me, he said, "Well, I don't know why you're bringing me this, and he used the word lackluster. He said, I think, you're really a lackluster soldier. And I laughed because I thought either this guy doesn't know what lackluster means and he thinks it's a good thing, or he's joking with me.
Right.
Well, it wasn't either. Like, he really didn't recommend me. And I just waited a month and I went back to him and I said, hey, I'd like you to look over my packet again. And he signed it, but like begrudgingly. Like, he didn't seem happy about signing it. So clearly, like, he was not a good warrant officer. I assumed that he was like really checking over all the work that was being done. I felt like he was kind of always in the shadows, like watching. I don't know what he was doing in the shadows, like, because he clearly had no idea how the platoon ran, or else he would have been like, yes, this makes sense. But yeah, the right way to deal with that when somebody does not, when you don't get promoted, someone gives you the, says no. The right way to deal with it is ask why. Say, what can I do to improve myself and or my resume so that if promotion comes up again, I'm more likely to get selected. And then whatever they say, like, do that. Right? Don't just take no for an answer. And then the next time promotion comes up, if you don't get promoted, say, hey, last time, I'd asked you, you said if you do this, this, and this, you're more likely to get promoted. I did this, this, and this. What else can I do? Right? But don't just take no for an answer.
So you're able to make those stars align instead of saying, nope, can't do it, not today. You went to warrant officer school. Right? You found success in that.
Yeah.
And then you made it to CW3 before you earned your retirement as a 20-year vet.
That's right.
And so, overall, a successful career. I'm sure at times you faced adversity, you had some egg on your face, things might not have panned out, but overall successful.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, coming from humble beginnings. So, what advice would you have for people that are either in the middle of their journey and just struggling, or they just haven't found their motivation yet, or they're looking, they either haven't tasted success or they're trying to find success again and they're just struggling? What advice would you have for them to wrap this up?
All right, so I'm just reminded of something that I hadn't thought of in a long time, and this was something Sergeant Major Yeast told me back in probably like 2000, 2001. And he said, learn from other people's mistakes. Don't learn from your own. It is far too costly to learn from your own mistakes. And that is such great news, and or such great advice. And there were a lot of times, and you're probably, I think everybody's going to experience this. There will be times in your life where you will be in a classroom with a teacher, or maybe someone from like 2 levels above you, 3 levels above you will be down, like talking to your organization, giving a speech. And at the end of the speech, end of the class, whatever, they always say, does anybody have any questions? That is the perfect time to say, hey, I have a lot of respect for you. You've done a lot of wonderful things in your career. Can you help us out by just maybe telling us of like an innocent mistake that you made that we would be good to not make, right?
Yeah.
Help us avoid a mistake that could hurt our careers or something.
Because a lot of people get up there and they like to tell their highlights.
People love to tell their highlights, and they're going to tell you those automatically.
Right.
I did this, I did this, I did this. Like, awesome, right? Tell me a time about when you failed. Right, because that's where we can really learn from each other. And
so it'd be important to keep that in perspective. You know, everybody makes mistakes, everybody fails. You know, just stumble through it. And I think you and I are the same way in that we use that and we tell other people like, "Hey, I messed up. This is how I learned. Don't do that." Whereas other people might try and hide that, but
Yeah, I try to be humble and just say, hey, this is something where I messed up.
yeah,
I didn't know I was messing up. Or, now that I'm a leader, I saw a lot of people mess up. And I wouldn't throw them under the bus and be like, this guy did this guy did this. But I would say, hey, these were some honest mistakes that people made because they just didn't know.
yeah,
Don't fall into this trap, right? If you see this opportunity and you go, oh, I can exploit this, like, hold up, because
yeah,
that's not going to look the way you think it is on paper.
yeah.
um, so, yeah, that and the absolute best advice that I can really give about, for someone who is, trying to find success or trying to find their way is, uh, be the best version of yourself that you can be, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Not just for yourself, but because if you are not the best or striving to be the best that you can, you are cheating yourself, you are cheating your family, you're cheating your team, and you're cheating your organization from the person that they could have in their lives. You're sabotaging everybody if you are not striving to be the best version of yourself that you can be. So start with that, and then uh, do your best, pray that it's blessed, and He'll take care of the rest.
I like it. I'm gonna leave it there. I love you, Dad.
Love you too, son.
There we go.